out of that. They might need more than that. Might need a tank out of the hat to have enough firepower against Falcons because they came to play. There was no doubt that these players want to show up like we know they can on this global stage. MSC looking for one winner for that $1 million prize pool. Falcons on their way to be it. One more win that will put themselves in a strong position. Start. But of course, Guangzhou Gaming trying to come back and claw their way to make it a best of 3 and force that final third game. LaFell, more of what Falcons have done seem to be probably the plan for game 2.
I don't know if Mirko agrees, but I was hoping for much more coming in from Falcons here because yes, they win, but even as analysts, we're like,
interesting.
It's not going to be enough just yet because you got to look at this tournament as a whole. Guangzhou Gaming, they've shown that they are strong, but there are some games you need a statement game to show that you are far above and beyond the competition,
right,
for you to go to the grand finals. Because at this point, it's not about beating Guangzhou, it's about getting that momentum, that tempo for you to make it all the way to the grand finals. And I hope this is kind of like a wake-up call to be like, okay, there's mistakes here, 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 and here. We got to fix this before we get to the grand finals. Because personally for me, I want to see a bit more coming in from Falcons.
Okay. Yeah, for me, unfortunately, I see where you're coming from. I agree to a certain extent, but I think just going off of the experience of all these teams, you know, Falcons, PH, TLPH, just the Filipino teams in general, there are so many times where in a tournament they would look weak early on.
Not a hero that's in the meta a lot,
that's
so
true.
It's one of those where you kind of punish yourself.
You know, interestingly enough, a lot of MOBAs have this sense of one really strong counter pick that's like you pacing. It's a different timing. It's a different.
Here in the Mobile Legends ecosystem, we have another thing to consider. It's not sometimes just one hero. Sometimes it's just the draft does not have the answer.
Yeah, version of Peel that we can provide that's going to stop them. So the best chance is actually try to hit them back.
Sometimes it's better to fight fire.
نه نیمه نهایی MSC لایو
might have to just double down on Peel, right?
فقط تایتل نمیتونم عوض کنم اونجوری داره گاییده میشه مغزم
Double down on meta because again they had a pretty good composition from the start of the game. They had tempo, they had the snowball, but unfortunately they
How does that change things, LaFell, if at all?
Well, it really helps out a team that really wants to be aggressive, and it forces you to never autopilot because you're playing a normal map, you know where the bushes are, but sometimes it just this good at it early. But again, it's
گوانجو گیمینگ داره
that you have.
And it's also
حرکت‌های خطرناک میزنه
players, we see this across multiple games as well. I'm sure in MLBB fit different metas better. And you can play the meta, but sometimes it's not the meta you would prefer to play. It's not your style, it's not where you feel at home. So
ببینی فرقی که با مچ‌اپ عادی داره اینی که اینجا متا بند ندادن اساسنای کار جمع کن بند دادن اما مثلا فریو تو متا نیست ولی فریو بنه مارسل تو متا هست بنه فنی تو متا نیست اصلا بنه لینک تو متا نیست بنه فرق مسابقات با مچ‌اپ رنکاپ اینه پلیر خوب روبروشون اینو بند میدن اسمرالدا
because it's a lot faster, it's almost like they're coming into it with the mindset of, all right, we're going from tier 1 into 2, 3 constantly, but in MLBB it's kind of like
من آخر فالکون چیه؟
next 4 years into 5.
Yeah, something to note as well, the longer the game goes, the less that the coach can really impact on the decisions of the game because that's why certain shot callers in Mobile Legends is so
Atlas
even if your mechanics isn't that great, but you have a good head over your shoulders, your price is just gonna skyrocket. So shout outs to V, and this is why honestly we're going into
بند دادن اطلس و مارسل یعنی که قرار کامپ تو همی داشته باشن این تیم فایت میشستن در هم دیگه فرست بیک هیرورا ابجکتیو استیل خوار مادر روبرو اوکای اوکای دورو
That's why Falcons were happy with the trade. They were like, all right, go for the Hirara. We'll take the Eudora. We'll lock her down completely and even the Akai pick. Now, we've seen more assassins do well, find success over the course of the last 3 games that we casted or that we analyzed for. But the Akai works when it's still against the Hirara, man. It's just so difficult for the Hirara to walk onto these neutral objectives.
این آکای هیرارا رو بگیره بیچاره است دیگه در نمیاد از استیلش
because a hero got nerfed doesn't mean it's unusable, right? Akai is still very strong. It's still a top pick in the jungle. It's just not as
ایوو کلاد.
during wild cards and yeah, basically during wild cards because during MWI it's already been
گود
nerfed.
گود.
Now Guangzhou
هارلی.
with the Claude as well as the
هارلی.
Eve, and now the Harley picked up. So this is Akai rope.
پشمان.
I think so.
نه آکای
I
رومه.
like it more than the Akai jungle, not gonna lie. I agree with you, it's not entirely out of the meta in the jungle, but I'd prefer it to be somewhere else, especially considering right
اینجا
now
هارلی رومو شروع میکنه.
jungles, and Akai did get kind of nerfed in that aspect. The Barats gets banned out. Very interesting.
Why so?
Okay, so I've also seen this in scrims. The Barats is usually an answer to the Arlet or the Paquito. So I think Falcons might actually be eyeing an Arlet here, knowing that, again, they already have an Akai. It's very good to stop that. The Brody gets banned out by Guangzhou Gaming, another pick that can actually bully the Claude. But if you see the Eve, you're already kind of thinking it should be no problem.
Yeah.
Either way, though, it is what it is. The Uranus is the final ban for Falcons.
Yeah, so it looks like Falcons is trying to set up for a strong pick in the EXP. And now the Clint has been banned out as well. So for Guangzhou, I would say their opening is pretty solid, but they still need someone to be a proper frontline. If possible, push the Eudora away so that it doesn't become a problem for either the Claude or the Herrera, because they got a lot of damage coming in from Guangzhou, but I feel like if one of those pieces is missing, it's going to be a bit awkward.
Lane pressure with
Moskov.
Moskov, able to have that global rotate to join in on the fights. That was one of the things the casters picked up. Gideon mentioned that was a problem for Guangzhou. Grouping together, not being able to kind of 4-1 or 3-2, as you mentioned, LaFell. Moskov going to open up some things and some playmaking potential as we have two more picks here coming from Guangzhou Gaming to close out.
سلام یاسین.
Yeah, especially now we're in dangerous grass. They need a dedicated
یه دور سلام کردی که بیشه.
just to be able to open up the map because Eudora as well as the Hardy can take advantage and there's the Grok. We don't see him a lot. Still very
اوه پوکیتو گراک.
Keto shows up. Esmeralda is not there to like be a true counter, but at this point I feel like there's still quite a lot of picks that can deal with Guangzhou.
I think it should be just either the Phobius or the Arlet.
Well, yeah, the Fovia is still open, yeah.
The Arlet, you're going to get bullied quite a bit by the Keto, but then you're just relying on the stuns coming in for the resets with the Akai and the Eudora. And
پیک سمت فالکون آرلوت واقعا یا سورا. آرلوت یا سورا پیک خیلی خوبیه.
Falcons PH, at least for this matchup, looks like that, like just more damage, right? A good offense is a good defense. So a lot of firepower coming in from Falcons for the first match in game number 1 and game number 2.
Because it seems like with the Sora pick here, it's more of like, all right, we don't care about the lane anymore. We're just going to go for the team fight because the Paquito is usually an answer to the Sora in lane.
And at this point, why would they? Whatever works last game could work again. Confidence for Team Falcons PH trying to close it out.
این پیک سورا کاملا پیک تیم فایتی بوده. تو 1v1 سورا صد میخوره از پوکیتو. پوکیتو.
I think heading into this tournament, you were really expecting them to be one of the cleanest, but game 1, GJG pushed them to the limits by just a little bit. So this time around, though, things seem to be pretty different, draft-wise especially.
فشار رو میدونید.
Here by Kyle, able to take a camp out. He figured out the starting path and was able to take at least one of these camps. This does mean that it's going to
آنرای
be
کنفوکار.
However, we're going to see recall here. Going to try and contest this. It's dangerous.
برق رفت.
And admittedly, they played it well. Even getting into the right position to see.
زندگی تو ایران.
Somehow equalizing the advantage in the early game, given that Kyle did take away one green cap. But a quick look onto the emblems as well. There seems to be the mid duo taking that PYT.
تایتل اوکی شد یاسین. تایتل الان همون بریم رنگ یا نه عوض شده. اوکی تو داره میماله سورا رو داره میماله. اوکی تو میره پک کنه سورا رو میماله. آها هارلی رو میگیری. اوف دابل 28 خوب داری. 28 درصد خوب داری. بسن هارلی چه دابلی زد اون ولکایل.
control over tempo. It's not a fight on a dime type
بله
of
موسکو
game. You
کچ
have
کرد.
to kind of set the plays and really find the right angles. At the same time, with tempo.
او
all right.
هارلی بوشچه که
Okay, and now
قار
you're
مادر ریسی میده.
this bush. We're seeing dangerous grass in a while, and now it's
بریم
Falcons
رنگ
starting
که
it up, but Recall
مهم
and
نیست.
the rest
بعدش
of the
زوگیش
members are gonna be here too. Flap trying to look for an angle. It's not gonna go in for the setup just yet, and there you go, but it's still Recall actually winning out.
ماشاءالله ماشاءالله.
Placing to it already committed here by side. SOD will not connect, but Oakland still goes in
سه
for the
تا اولت
double.
خوابید. آها سورات.
They still actually find X King, but they might just get traded out here. Fortunately, the heavy will keep them
سورات
safe.
چی
The knockback
گذاشت.
close call for Oakland right there.
What a timing by
سورات چه اولتی گذاشت.
about to hit level 4. Just give me the right timing. I just need to reveal one
یه
extra
نفر یاد بگیر ازش.
charge alongside with the heavy
اولت فلیکر قار مادر.
spells. And now you get to see how these compositions actually want to play the game now, right? Falcons, understandably, hey, even though it's a skirmish, we can't risk losing these big spells before the most important fight. But look at Kyle, repathing down towards the purple side, knowing that Hirara is on the orange buff side.
Yep, I think the only small win really that we could really consider from that was the fact that
هیرو رو
Recall still
فرسویک کردن اشتباه بزرگی کردن. راحت کانتر شد.
post-turtle takes seem to have really favored Falcons, especially
هنوزم ادوانتج دوز خوبیه ولی
so much resources at this point already. Fortunately though, he's not really as behind.
تیم جلوش تیم اذیتی. همه دورا بگیرتش هم اوکای تموم میشه بنده خدا.
Gets on top of Xing, it might just be over. It doesn't reveal him, but he's gonna walk through. Good check, good game sense.
Yep, they're not afford or they could not
سورو
afford to
وش
lose
هم
down
ببین
anymore. This
میجه
only, I think, would be
دیشب 4 تا از این اولتا گذاشتم برات نرمال بود.
time he feels that
یکی قدر بود.
the area. Another gold grab. I think
موسکو گولد کرب و با اولت میگیره.
That's ridiculous. That's ridiculous. Committing
Dude.
just for these small advantages. That's what separates the boys from
Dude.
the bet. Oh, CY's in so much trouble.
او اکای 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 کلادو کچ میکنه ایزی کیل.
is gonna be enough. The question is, does Oakland get out?
خودش هم کچ نمیشه. آخ گراک
Real world manipulation being laid down.
Okay.
گراک.
That's actually incredible. That's actually incredible for Falcons.
کلاد مرده. موسکو پوشو بغل میگیره.
But can they do it?
ترتلا
Flap misses everything.
Yeah,
اها.
find a setup
سورو
and
تلاش
still Guangzhou
این که اونه با
will
اولتش
take
کچ
the
کنه
objective.
رید.
Kyle will not make it as he just focuses on this green camp, but that's knowing that they didn't have the real world, and now Guangzhou might get more.
Oof.
They might just find Kyle. Fortunately, is still
Oof.
alive, but Xing picks
ایدورا چرا پیک شد؟
Now they're gonna go for the chase. It's
ایدورا چرا پیک شد؟
back under their turret.
ایرارا بکشه.
Laid down and the flicker to get out.
Oh, this is ridiculous. That fork lightning. Oakland.
اوخ 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 اوکی تو.
That body slam, but CY chasing this really is
واه
gonna
خخ خخ
really get
اوکی
the
تو.
Trinity build. But my goodness, getting to see the fork lightning being spammed like what 3 times. I know that they changed the cooldowns to it so that you can like chain it together much easier than last time where you needed to be like level 11, level 10 around there to get it consistently. But now here at level 7, I mean Haji is doing it consistently too.
Yeah, and at least for Falcons, despite what happened earlier on, it didn't really.
اکچولی هارلی اینجا پیک خیلی خوبیه.
They